Hi, everyone, this is the Encyclopedia channel. The book interpreted by this program is called Strategy. The author of this book is Fredmond Malik, a master of management. Peter Drucker once praised Malik like this: Professor Fredmond Malik is an authoritative master both in theory and in practice. Malik is good at integrating the ideas and concepts of many disciplines into management science. He acquired knowledge from disciplines such as system theory, cybernetics, and evolutionary theory, combined with practical experience in management, and created a systematic and unique management method. Many companies, such as BMW, Volkswagen, Sony, Siemens, and Huawei, are deeply influenced by Malik's management thinking. So, what is the greatest significance of strategy to the enterprise? What are the most common mistakes companies make when formulating strategies? How is a solid strategy developed? After listening to this program, everyone will have a new understanding of strategy. Another book by Malik, Corporate Strategy and Corporate Governance, tells that in the 21st century, the economy and society are undergoing the greatest transformation in history. We are living in a world of so much complexity that traditional linear ways of thinking no longer apply. Managers must master a set of new management ideas in the face of complexity. This strategy is written immediately after Corporate Strategy and Corporate Governance. After realizing the new changes in the business world and seeing the new problems in the business world, managers must think about a question: what kind of strategy should my company use to adapt to new changes and face new problems? Malik's book is here to answer this question. Next, we will divide this book into 3 parts for you to interpret. First part. In Malik's view, what is the greatest significance of strategy to the enterprise? Truth be told, the word strategy is overused these days. Any decision a company makes can be called a strategy. Shooting an advertisement is called a marketing strategy, departmental adjustments are called an organizational strategy, and company expansion is called a growth strategy. Even selling things at a discount can be called a low-price strategy. This is actually not true. If all decisions could be strategy, there would be no strategy. We need to give strategy a clear definition and see how it works. In this book, Malik gives an angle that you may not think of. He said that the important function of strategy is to make up for the lack of information. It may not be easy to understand, because in our thinking in the past, strategy and information were on the sidelines. Knowing the details of things makes it easier to get things done. If there is insufficient information to determine the strategy, wouldn't that be blind? Is such a strategy reliable? Malik is certainly not suggesting that company managers scramble to formulate strategy when they have no information. But what he wants to point out is that the traditional concept of formulating strategy after obtaining all the information may not work in the business world of the 21st century. Don't talk about strategy. We used to think that when making any decision, the more information the better. It is best to have all the information before making a decision. It's like encountering an intersection and not knowing where to go. It's best to climb a mountain and see all the roads clearly before coming down to make a decision. But this way of thinking ignores a very important resource, that is time. In the real world, information is traded for time. Let's take Zaya Abida as an example. On the way to work, I open the book website and prepare to buy a book. Click on the list to see thousands of books. What should you do at this time? Of course, you can read all the titles of the books, and you can also look up the information on the internet for books you don't know, and choose a book after careful selection. But in this way, it is very likely that you spent half an hour reading the content introduction and evaluation information of the book, and it took more than an hour to find a book to buy, which is not worth the candle. Most of the books on decision-making are often from the perspective of God, and the information has been collected before discussing how we can make better choices. It's a pity that only in an ideal world, people have endless time for you to collect information. This is not the case in real life, and time is precious. In most real situations, it is not up to you to collect all the information before making a decision. Time is limited, and you can only rely on part of the information you know. Enterprises need to use as little information as possible to make better decisions, so as to save time and resources to the greatest extent. There is another situation, that is, no matter how hard you try, you can't collect enough information. Because today's enterprises are in a huge system of global interconnection, the business world is extremely complex, and it is constantly changing at an accelerated rate. Complex systems are inherently mysterious, and even today's best scientists dare not speak boldly when facing complex systems, saying that they have fully grasped the laws. Perhaps in the future, scientists can find new theorems and new formulas to accurately predict those complex systems. But at the moment, we must admit that we have too few tools in our hands, and we may always be in a situation of insufficient information. Then what should we do? Malik said that if knowledge is lacking, let rules guide our behavior. Those rules are the strategy. The so-called strategy is that we don't know what the future will hold, but we must take action and try to make the right choice. Conversely, if a company already has all the information it needs to know, then it is enough for a company to formulate a plan step by step based on this information, and there is no need for a strategy. The emergence of strategy is precisely to make up for the lack of information. This is Malik's strategic vision. In Malik's view, in the 21st century, we are transitioning from an information society to a knowledge society, from an institutional society to a complex system society. Enterprises are no longer machines that improve labor force, but systems that improve intelligence, and are no longer money-making machines in the economic sense, but information and communication systems. Under such changes, corporate managers also need to update the definition of strategy. The second part. After talking about Malik's strategic views, let's take a look at the second part. Malik reminds us what mistakes are most likely to be made by companies when formulating strategies. Malik begins by reminding us to be wary of the right bullshit when strategizing. For example, take targeted measures, make full preparations, and make appropriate decisions. In Malik's eyes, these are just empty slogans, saying nothing. You can use them as slogans, but don't use them as strategies. So how can it be considered meaningful? The simplest criterion, says Malik, is that looking at the opposite of the sentence does not constitute an option. For example, in the previous few sentences, the opposite of take targeted measures means take untargeted measures. The opposite of make full preparations means make insufficient preparations. There shouldn't be a company in this world that, when formulating strategies, says that we have to make insufficient preparations and that we have to make inappropriate decisions. This shows that the previous few sentences are just correct nonsense. This standard allows the company's managers to think more clearly about the problem. If a company's strategy includes catch consumers, this is correct nonsense. Which company's strategy is not to catch consumers? If it is more detailed, catch female consumers, this is considered a strategy. Because it's opposite, grabbing male consumers is also a viable option and can be another company's strategy. Strategy is not a choice between right and wrong. Strategy is a choice between right and right. For example, in 1996, Huawei was only a small agency of communication equipment. At that time, Huawei earned its first pot of gold from agency fees. Someone suggested to use this money to buy a piece of land in Shenzhen for diversified development. But Rin Zhengfei made a decision to spend all the money on product research and development. Huawei can only start its transformation by selling its own products. This is a very critical, strategic choice. If it really bought the land at that time, Huawei might have become a real estate company. Perhaps today, the development of this real estate company is also very successful, but there is no Huawei in this world. The resources of any enterprise are limited. If you determine the core strategic direction, you must mobilize all the elite soldiers and resources to saturate the attack, focus on one point, and make a breakthrough on this point first. After listening to this story, you can better understand that strategy is not a choice between right and wrong, but a strategy is a choice between right and right. The second point Malik reminds us is not to use market size as a strategic goal. The strategic goal of many enterprises is to be bigger and stronger and create brilliance. However, Malik specifically reminds in this book that what companies need is not big. There is a famous story, David and Goliath, in the Bible. It's about the weak David who defeated the giant Goliath. Before David went out to fight, everyone around him knew that David was too weak, and they all advised him to put on heavy armor. But David knows that wearing armor is to make up for his small disadvantage, but no matter how he makes up for this disadvantage, he cannot be stronger than the giant Goliath. David's advantages are flexibility, fast speed, and accurate shooting. Based on this analysis, David went in the opposite direction, tried to find a favorable battlefield, took off his armor, maximized his speed advantage, chose long-range stone-throwing attacks, and finally defeated Goliath. The reason why the story of David and Goliath has been circulating is to remind us that big does not necessarily mean strong. The same is true for a company. In this book, Malik specifically reminds that what a company needs is to be stronger. Being bigger is just one possible way to realize becoming stronger. In other words, becoming bigger is a means, not an effective means at all times. If business managers take the market size as a strategic goal and blindly pursue bigness, they will be like a person who can't tell what is muscle and what is fat, and can only be puffy. You may ask, we can determine whether a person is puffy or really strong through various physical indicators. Can we also test a company in this way? Malik gave an answer in the book. Look at the market position of this company. It is healthy if the expansion of business size and business growth is achieved by improving market position. Conversely, if the market position does not change, then the scale expansion of the enterprise is worthy of vigilance. The third point that Malik reminded is to distinguish between company operations and company strategy. Malik specially reminded that this is a principle that is related to the life and death of the company, and it is very important. Because in his experience, most companies have problems because the company formulates its strategy based on pure operational data. However, these data are not helpful at all for strategic decision-making, and may even be misleading. What is operational data? I quote the definition directly from the book. Operating data includes turnover, costs, profits, contribution margin, liquidity, cash flow, and anything derived from it. It doesn't matter whether the numbers are short-term or long-term, discounted or not. Even if it's a 10-year cash flow analysis, it's purely operational information. Even if it's a long-term extrapolation, that doesn't change the nature of the operation in the slightest. Speaking of this, you may gasp. These are the numbers that managers are most concerned about in daily operations. How come Malik has become a distraction item? Note that Malik is not saying that this data is useless for company management. He just wanted to tell us that the company's operational management and strategic management are two different concepts. Both types of management are indispensable, but they cannot replace each other because they have different tasks. The purpose of operations management is to achieve the company's current success. And strategic management is to create conditions for operational management. To be more precise, strategic management is to provide potential for the company's success. There's a common misconception: we're profitable, so our strategy can't be wrong. Malik cautions that even if a company is terminally ill, it's still possible that they're generating huge profits and meeting all the criteria for a financial analyst. Numerous examples prove that when a company makes the most serious mistakes, it is never when the operation is not satisfactory, but when the operation results are satisfactory. Conversely, it is also wrong to say we are losing money, so we need to change our strategy. Many times, the best strategy will leave a business in the red for years, especially if a company is undergoing a major innovation. If their leaders only focus on the financial numbers, I am afraid that not much innovation will really be achieved. The third part. In the previous content, we have said too much about what strategy is not, and there is nothing wrong with formulating strategies. It feels wrong everywhere. Don't be discouraged. As I said earlier, the word strategy has been misused in today's business world, so that people have too many misunderstandings. So in this book, Malik first breaks down and builds up, first eliminates those wrong concepts, and then explains what he thinks is the right way. So, in Malik's view, how do sound strategies develop? In Malik's view, a company's strategy is not thought out from scratch, it is premised. The premise of strategy is the goal of a company. The goals pursued are different, the order of doing things in a company, and even the spiritual temperament will be different. There is another case of management science. For a long time, there has been a voice in Western management circles that companies serve shareholders. Shareholders have invested in the company, so professional managers make money for shareholders and are responsible to shareholders. This is the most important goal. But Malik didn't think it was right. A company should be responsible to customers first. The purpose of the company is to solve social problems and pursue customer value, so managers must make the best efforts to create a long-term mechanism to continuously win customers and create market performance. Only in this way, managers are really for the good of the company, not just for the good of shareholders. Malik has a name for this long-term, customer-first approach, company first. Malik also rose to prominence for criticizing the principle of shareholder primacy and promoting the idea of corporate primacy. To some, Malik's corporate primacy may seem less controversial. For a long time, those businessmen have pursued higher standards of integrity, morality, and justice in addition to the pursuit of profit. Business is not just about profit, which is a very normal thing for those people. However, when you enter a specific situation, you will find that it is really difficult to insist on being responsible to customers first. For example, Costco, an American retail giant, has a well-known practice of insisting on returning and exchanging goods without reason. Not only can you return the jewelry you bought, but also the toys that children get tired of playing, and even the plants that someone bought for 3 years can be returned. Even if I ate half of the watermelon, I was refunded. You see, when it comes to specific operations, many companies do not achieve this level. You have to know that these processes will bring huge inventory pressure and consume the company's financial resources. It is very likely that some companies will be dragged down because of these burdens. So you see, the concept of giving priority to being responsible for customers sounds mediocre, but it really requires great determination to implement a goal. And Malik tells us that such determination is worth it. There is nothing wrong with just thinking about making money, because a company can't achieve anything without money. It's like a person who has to eat before he can talk about anything else. However, the principle of shareholder supremacy is like a person who sets his life goal on eating, then this person will not be very promising. After the food and clothing stage, people have to pursue something higher. The same is true for companies. A company that prioritizes customers is like a person who has left the stage of food and clothing and has higher pursuits. Those successful companies often focus on creating value for customers. Driven by this goal, the company can often be embedded in the social ecology, solve social problems, and meet customer needs. Interestingly, it is precisely such companies that can develop more healthily and create profits for a long time. So Malik reminded that the managers of a company should think clearly about at least 3 things. First, what are customers going to buy from you as a business? That is to think clearly about needs. Second, as a business, where can you do better than others? That is to think clearly about strengths or advantages. Third, where does your confidence as a company come from? Or to put it another way, if external incentives have been exhausted, is there still strength to continue to support employees? This is to think clearly about confidence. The combination of needs, strengths, and self-confidence is the mission of an enterprise. This mission will become the basis of the strategy, so that the company will not lose its way in good times and increase the power to survive in adversity. Malik likens customer value to the beacon that helps companies find their strategy, but it's not the only beacon. There is also a beacon, which is the competitiveness of the company. To be more precise, it is whether enterprises are willing to innovate in order to improve production efficiency. Malik observed that only the best companies have research and development mechanisms specifically aimed at production efficiency, and are willing to invest money and energy in innovation and increase the company's productivity. There is a concept in management called total factor productivity, which is a productivity indicator to measure the total output per unit of total input, that is, the ratio of total output to all factor inputs. Malik said that only this total factor productivity is the only reliable indicator for judging enterprise growth. This is not Malik's own categorical statement. Some economists have calculated the economic growth performance of the United States in the 20th century and found that the most prosperous period in the United States was the period when total factor productivity jumped. If you ask another question, why did the total factor productivity increase the fastest during this period of time? Because this period of time is a period of rapid iteration of technology. Therefore, behind the growth is the improvement of total factor productivity, and behind the total factor productivity is technology and innovation. These are the 2 lighthouses Malik found for the corporate strategy. One is to give priority to being responsible to customers as the goal, and the other is to innovate to improve production efficiency. In addition to these shifts in perception, Malik also recommends a method in the book. How should a company discuss and determine its strategy and decisions? In the past, we would think that it must be fully researched and extensively solicited opinions. It is best to involve as many people as possible, exchange opinions, actively discuss, and finally formulate company strategies and important decisions. However, going back to our initial dilemma, in reality, information is limited and time is limited. It is necessary to make good decisions while saving time and resources to the greatest extent. After research and practice, Malik proposed a new method: find one of the most complex challenges that the company is currently facing, select 40 key personnel from the organization, conduct discussions in 3 days, and divide this challenge into 12 subtopics to formulate solutions. The conclusions drawn are already very reliable. Moreover, using this method can save a lot of time and avoid a large number of meetings from killing the enthusiasm and vitality of colleagues. Now, let's review and summarize. Facing the business world full of complexity in the 21st century, Malik put forward a new strategic view. He believes that the function of strategy is to make up for the lack of information. It allows a company to make correct decisions even with limited information. Malik reminds us to avoid falling into 3 traps when formulating strategies. Don't take correct nonsense as a strategy, don't take market expansion as a strategy, and don't take the company's operating goals as strategic goals. So what is a sound strategy? Malik gave 2 lighthouses. One is to give priority to being responsible to customers as a goal, and the other is to innovate to improve production efficiency. Think from this to formulate the strategy of the enterprise. Malik's management thinking is a system. If you want to quickly understand all of Malik's management tools, you can read Management: The Essence of Skills. This book is like his secret method. This book will give you an overview of his thoughts and moves in his thought system. If you are worried about how to make organizational changes to the company, I recommend you to read his Transformation: A Way of Thinking for a Complex New World. We also recommend everyone to read his Corporate Strategy and Corporate Governance. In that book, Malik elaborates on new problems in the business world in detail and gives us the thinking tools for systematic thinking. Putting these books together for themed reading will yield more gains and help you form a complete management system. This is the end of this episode of the show. What do you think about it differently? Welcome to leave a message to discuss with everyone. Hey, if you like our channel, please subscribe us. Haha, remember to like it.